Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Frank Schlupp with Metasource Technical Services. This morning, in our Tech Share, we're going to cover information rights management. Our Tech Share series is designed to help you guys help customers solve business problems through better understanding of our products and services. In today's session, we're going to go through the installation and configuration of a new module available for Application Extender called Information Rights Management. We're very excited to show this to you. We think there's a lot of potential application for your existing customers and maybe some new prospects. Let's take a closer look, though, first at some of the challenges organizations are facing around data security. If you read the news, we're all aware that more and more there's been some breaches of personally identifiable information, in some cases that results in identity theft. The companies that are involved generally are affected in a couple of ways. They, of course, have a loss of revenue. They're impacted in lawsuits and things like that. They also get some bad publicity. Now, organizations have mobile workforces, so there's laptops and USB keys and all kinds of ways for information to leak outside of the corporate firewall. But just part of the normal business process these days more and more requires collaboration with partners and vendors. Organizations are under increased pressure to do business and share information. One of the problems with that is that once the information gets outside the firewall, it's extremely difficult to control security to it. A single email can be copied and distributed 1 million times, and whatever attachments are associated there. We just have to look at a website like WikiLeaks. I'm sure you've all read about that. Information gets outside of the corporate firewall, and it's easily distributed using web servers and other means across the internet, and many cases can seriously impact a business or the customers that use a particular service. Once the information is outside of the corporate firewall, it's nearly impossible to audit access. What I mean by that is it's extremely difficult to tell who's looking at the information once it's outside of your network. If you think about an application extender system for a moment, we have audit controls which can tell you who accessed a particular document and when they looked at it. However, if you export a document out of Application Extender and then share it with an external vendor or a partner, the data is no longer being managed by AX, and our audit controls no longer apply. Well, with information rights management, that's going to change, and we'll take a look at that in just a moment. Thinking about, before I leave this slide, the kinds of information that folks need to share, if you think about your existing install base, I'm sure you have customers with patient records that need to be shared, customer files that need to be shared with partners and vendors. There's sensitive corporate information that sometimes needs to be shared. Government, of course, there's case files, which in law enforcement may be part of a discovery request, or in Department of Human Services, for example, they may have sensitive information related to clients that need to be shared with outside agencies. So all of that kind of information, sensitive information, whether it contains customer, corporate, or patient information, those are all candidates for these kinds of controls that we're going to talk about today. So just think about that as we go through this. And I didn't mention this earlier. If you have questions, feel free to type those into the window on the side. I'll answer those as best I can. So on your meeting toolbar there should be a little spot for you to type in a question. Just type your question into the window anytime, and I've got an eye on that, and I'll answer those questions as best as I can. So let's look at the solution. There's IRM for AX, or Information Rights Management for Application Extender. IRM ensures that confidential information remains secure even after it leaves the repository. It does this by encrypting the content and centrally storing the key on an IRM policy server. We'll talk about how that works in a minute. The rights and privileges are enforced by what we call a document policy. Within that policy, we can define who can access the content, when they can access it, and once they access it, what they can do with the content. So that could mean one particular user or group of users can copy but not print, or they can edit the document. All of those controls are implemented within the policy. The policy is then applied to a document. We can apply that policy automatically depending on the content type. So as you export out of an AX application to share, say, sensitive patient record with an external partner, you can automatically have a policy apply in such a way that only authorized users can access that document in a read-only fashion, so they can view it, but they can't print it, which helps control dissemination. They can't copy it and send it to other users, nor can they print it out and use those printed copies as a way to disseminate the information to unauthorized users. So that's what the policy is about. This policy is attached to the document. It actually travels with the document. A token of the policy is embedded within the encrypted content. The protection's persistent no matter how many copies are created, no matter where the content travels, and access to the document is centrally controlled at all times. So we do that, we'll see here in a minute, by storing the decryption key centrally on the server, and the policy itself can be changed up on the server in real time, so that as users come in and out of an organization, or perhaps we want to revoke access to a particular document for a group of users, we can do that centrally on the server because the control is centrally maintained at all times. So companies that implement this kind of technology, and this technology's been around for a while. EMC acquired a company that had this technology. They were in the market for many, many years. Microsoft and Adobe also have their own kinds of IRM protection. But this kind of technology helps companies and government agencies actively control, secure, and track sensitive information wherever it resides. The benefit is less leakage, and the costs associated with those breaches in terms of direct cost and indirect cost, the bad publicity that I talked about earlier, that's avoided. Companies that implement this technology can ensure that only authorized recipients can view, copy, print, or edit the information. You have the ability to, at any time, revoke access to a document, even after the external distribution. Today, if you email a document to an external party and then you change your mind, well, you have to sort of trust the external party. You'll have to call them and say, hey, could you delete that file? I don't want it disseminated for whatever reason. That's not an adequate control to protect information, whatever it may be, patient records or corporate information. This product, IRM, is going to give you the ability to revoke access to that document centrally. You won't have to make that phone call. You can sort of centrally deactivate everyone's access to the document simultaneously. And the system protects documents. We include support for not only Office documents, but also document images and electronic report files, the things that we store in AX. To get started, you need a server that's going to contain the policy and act as sort of the hub to the solution. So this is a Windows 2003 or Windows 2008 server. We support VMware, of course, and we support most of the databases out there that you would use. Just a note on the databases, if you're technical, the SQLDB requires a specific collation. It has to be a case-sensitive collation. So when you're setting up the database, and I have notes on that in the installation exercise. That'll help walk you through that process. For authentication, that is to identify users as they go to access content. We have a couple different ways to do that. We have what's called a shared secret password, which is similar, if you think about it, to content management, security, and AX. As many of you know, you can create usernames and passwords in AX. You can create a set of usernames and passwords similar to that in IRM. What's different about these users is that typically they're not going to be internal corporate users. These shared secret passwords are going to be users that are external to your organization. And typically you're going to create a username for each unique person outside of the organization that's accessing the content. And then you would communicate the password to them, what we call out of band. So you'd pick up the phone and you'd tell them what their password is over the phone, or you would transmit it to them in a separate, maybe an encrypted email. And in that way you can kind of secure the transmission of the authentication information they need to access the documents. We also integrate with Windows Active Directory. So if you have distributed offices and they're all part of AD, that's an easy choice. We also work with LDAP X509 digital certificates and RSA ACE server, which is, many of you are familiar with the little key dongle. It has an RSA number. It rolls over every couple seconds, and that helps. That's what we call two-factor authentication. So we have support for that kind of a device as well if you want to invest in that kind of technology.